Hi everyone, it's Victoria. It is New Year's Eve and I haven't done a Facebook Live for a while. I've been going through a very challenging time in my life. Anyone that knows me will know why that is, and so I've been keeping myself quite quiet. But yesterday I was sitting with a colleague of mine and we were doing some planning for our businesses and for our lives for 2019. And I sat there and I was looking at the date and I suddenly thought, wow, today it's 13 years since I gave up an addiction that ran my life, and that started when I was about 16 years old. And in a way, my business is everything that I do was born from having that addiction, and I had that addiction because I didn't know how to take care of myself. So I spent years of my life suffocating feelings. I spent years of my life trying to self-medicate from pain, but also some of the time it was about having fun. And it was an addiction that, even though I enjoyed it and it possibly saved my life as a way of self-medicating, it then, I have no question, over the years it sabotaged so much potential vitality and energy that I had. But I believed it was something that was like a reward a lot of the time, or I believed it was something that I needed to do to be able to cope with life. Well, firstly, I want to congratulate myself on 13 years of not having to use that substance. It doesn't mean there aren't other things in my life that maybe at times I might pick up to help me, but overall this was the most damaging thing that I did. Why did I stop 13 years ago? I stopped because I was given a fresh start. I was given an opportunity to have a home. I was given an opportunity to really make the best of my life, and that was motivation enough for me at the time to put down what I was using. And I hit a real rock bottom 13 years ago, where I realised that I actually felt very powerless about stopping using this thing, and yet I wanted to, but I couldn't. So it was a very strange time, and one of the reasons that it was very difficult was because it was in my environment. It was around me a lot. I was around a lot of people who were doing it, and so it was very difficult to stop. And it was actually my partner who in the end was like, this is no good for you. And I then said, well, if I need to stop, I need to not have it around me at all. What was my rock bottom with it? My rock bottom was, it was affecting relationships around me, it was affecting my energy, it was affecting my ability to prosper, it was affecting my ability to put things, to actually create things in my life. It was affecting my ability to be a good mother. It held me back from success. It affected the way my brain worked in every aspect of my life. So since I've been sober from that, which is 13 years, what have I done? How did it turn my life around? Well, the first year or so was very much about just one day at a time, not needing to do what I'd done for years. If I didn't feel okay, not picking up something just to try and change how I felt. So the first couple of years was about that. And then very, very quickly, I started a business, a very successful business. I then very quickly after that started doing a degree, and after that I just kept building on what I was doing, and it became more and more clear to me, really clear to me, that all those years when I'd been using what I was using, I had been suppressing my power. I had been a kind of almost just lunching out on what I was capable of doing, because I was just killing so much of my energy. So in starting a successful business, it was something I'd always wanted to do. I always wanted to share a lot of the journey that I'd been on, and it wasn't something that I ever felt I could do as long as I was still living in addiction to substances. I'd done a qualification about 20 years ago, and I never felt fit to use it again as long as I was living with active addiction. So once I had actually managed to stop using the supplements, then slowly I started to rebuild my life, and all the things that I did like about myself and that I did like doing started to become priorities for me. One of the things I also had to do to build the good stuff in my life is I had to let go of a lot of people. I had to let go of a lot of friends. But what I also then did was I met new people. I made new friends. I made new contacts, people who kind of filled the bucket of being more around sobriety rather than being around people using, which would always just pull me back in. I would say now, 13 years on, I'm going through a very difficult period in my life. We all have challenges. I'm going through a big one right now. But the joy in my heart, and it really is, it's something I'm so proud of, is that whereas in the past when I went through such incredible trauma or grief or loss or breakdown of relationships, I always needed to pick up something to try and self-medicate, ease the pain, because I literally couldn't cope. I didn't have the support. Nowadays, I don't need to do that. And one day at a time, at the moment, I'm going through an experience that I never ever wanted to go through, but I am going through it. But the joy in my heart is that I don't need to do what I used to do in the past to cope with going through an experience like this. And it's very much, in terms of my business, part of what I do with people who come to me. You know, I am very much someone who we have to walk our talk. And for me, everything within Eggshell Therapies has been about sharing the tools that I have learnt, that I need to use, so that I don't need to live in active addiction, or if I am doing something regularly, it's something that helps me, that heals me, that is good for me and nourishing and empowers me, rather than something that diminishes my energy, affects the way I use my brain, and generally makes me not a great person to be around. And I just felt yesterday when I was sitting and I was planning my year for 2019, planning what I can build at a time when a huge part of my life is falling away from me. So it's so important to be building and gathering in all the good stuff and thinking about what I can continue to create. It was really important to look back as well and see the success that I have in my life, and to know that, sorry, my daughter's just trying to come in and I'm trying to tell her not to. Just to see the success that I have created in my life, and to believe that with the power of what I've done in the last 13 years, that I'll be able to recreate and do that again, but in a different way. So, and now the dog's coming in. 13 years of sobriety. It doesn't mean there aren't other things in my life where I need to really continue to look one day at a time at exactly how I live my life, how I am in relation to substances or to people, and more than anything in relationship with myself, which is something that I really look at right now. You know, self-love versus addiction. You know, how do we actually learn to love ourselves? Maybe if when I'd been 16 years old, when there was a very difficult suicide around me, maybe if I'd had support then, I wouldn't have needed to self-medicate. Maybe again in my 20s, when there was another suicide around me, if I wouldn't have needed to self-medicate, if I'd had the right support, if I'd had the right tools, maybe in a relationship that's breaking down right now. Again, if I'd had the right tools many years ago, I would have made very different choices. However, everything I have in my life right now is a godsend. I have 2 beautiful children. I have a great business, and I am free of an addiction that really, really got in the way and sabotaged so much that I believe, especially in my 20s, I could have created for myself. So I'm going to share a bit more, hopefully in the coming days and weeks, about how do we let go of things that aren't good for us, because actually, obviously, everyone at this time of year, there's this whole thing about New Year's resolutions and what we're not going to do anymore and all of that kind of thing. But it's so easy to say, but how do you actually do it? Because actually, if we use something to make ourselves feel good, almost to self-medicate, because we can't sit with our feelings, we can't sit with relationships in our life or with circumstances in our life, if we're using things to self-soothe, then how do we actually do things differently? How do, what tools do we need when we've got that list of New Year's resolutions? It's so easy to say, I'm not going to do this, but how do we actually make that happen? And I think I am qualified, having been able to put down a very, very major 19-year addiction, for 13 years. I think I am qualified to look back and look at all the different ways I've used to do that, and it is very much something that I want to share with people. So yeah, congratulations to me, 13 years clean, and thank you for being there with me on my journey. If you are someone who's known me at all during that time or even before then, and I will be sharing more. Just to say, I started doing a lot of Facebook Lives in September, and I was feeling really great about that, and then something happened which then made me feel really exposed about going public or about saying anything on video. I am still going through that process, so I don't know. There are days I'm happy to do this and days I'm not, but overall I am working towards doing a lot more of this and sharing and hopefully interacting with people, and I've got some really exciting things that I'm looking forward to creating in the next year, 2 years, but also trying to be really patient with myself and not put myself under too much pressure, because it's actually when we do that then we don't necessarily have the resources to take care of ourselves, and my priority right now is to take care of me so that then I can, in the long run, offer the best. So Happy New Year to everyone. And hopefully I will be back with a couple more Facebook Lives in this week. But if not, have a great 2019, and I'll see you soon. Bye.